Wendy is here. I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz in for Malika Andrews. What a game. Denny, you were actually in the building last night for a bit. The Lakers made it a game towards the end. It was sort of back and forth, but you give us your POV from being there.
I mean, I love the energy from the start. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good game. You know, back and forth. Kawhi looked fresh. He looked young. You know, James Harden hitting guys with Euro steps, showing his strongman basketball. LeBron getting in the mix. Jake Laravia actually started the game with 2 shots. But last night, where it all ended, it was the 4th quarter. And, you know, Vando was good. He picked up the full court. Kawhi made him work. Kept him to his left hand. Got a pick coming, trying to get a switch. But he still got Kawhi to go left. But LeBron James, surprisingly, in this defensive mix-up, leaves a strong corner. This is a no-no. This is a cardinal sin. You could not leave a strong corner unless it's a guy that's a really non-shooter. But John Collins is very capable, and this right here to me was the dagger. And that's a defensive mistake you cannot make, especially in the 4th quarter at that time of the game.
What's been your biggest takeaway from that Clippers win?
Yeah, the Lakers they don't have a margin for error. They're just not a strong enough team where they can get by with a lackluster half of defense. And in the first half, I mean, the 4th quarter was back and forth, and the Lakers went small, and they had some really good defensive possessions. And this is an example of it. Like, you get into a close game, you need to win it because look what's coming up. They're leaving today to go on this Grammy trip.
It's a lot of games.
They're putting up tents outside for the red carpet at Crypto because the Grammys are moving in. That means the Lakers are moving out. They're gone for this long stretch, all the way through the trade deadline. They're gone. And they just don't have the defense to survive getting down by 20 points. They have to be able to play closer. They're awesome in close games. Like last night, they get into a clutch game. You're like, oh, man, they're going to win this because they always win it. But you can't be 100% in clutch games. They're going to lose some. That's what happened last night.
Two things. You're absolutely correct, Wendy, because if the Lakers defense were like magic, it would be vanishing act. An absolute big old vanishing act. And if you look at the sample size of the last 2 games, they've actually been outscored in first halves by 15.5 points. And then they make this comeback and they outscore opponents in their second half by 15 points. So it's literally they're experiencing a 30-point swing because their defense does not show up early. They have to fix that. But before I go any more on the Lakers, can we give a little bit more kudos to the Clippers? Yeah. They won the game. Yeah. They've been the best team. They've been the best team since December 20th. Now I'm going to not, jump off the cliff like I have the last few years and say the Clippers are gonna do something because we still have to see it in the postseason. But still they're consistent, and I like how they've rebounded as of late.
I will say, Lakers fans, you have a little bit of hope now. Austin Reeves is supposed to come back for that road trip. So defense
on the road trip, not the whole road.
Not the whole trip, road trip. But the defense, you usually win with some offense. That's how they've won games, so that you have a little bit more room for error. But you got to find ways to fix those habits defensively. You can't make those mistakes down the stretch.
Yeah, and as we continue to lean in here on the Lakers side of things, ESPN's Baxter Holmes story made waves this week of the strange relationship between LeBron and the Buss family. The story delved into fallout from the Russell Westbrook trade and how Jeannie Buss felt LeBron didn't take accountability for the move. Buss, quote, privately mused about not renewing LeBron's 2022 extension and trading him to the Clippers, and even LeBron not being grateful enough for the team drafting Bronny. Here's LeBron addressing all of that.
Quite frankly, I don't really care about articles. I really don't. I don't care about stories. I don't care about podcasts and all that type of. It don't bother me. I'm 41 years old and I watch golf every day. I don't care about an article. How I represented this franchise and what I wanted to do to represent this franchise, so when I got here till now, has been with the utmost respect and honor and dignity, and I would say loyalty. I mean, I've played here longer than pretty much any other franchise I've played for.
Is this where you want to be? Is this where you want to be?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
He said, I am too grown for this. But, Brian, you read the LeBron tea leaves better than anyone. So what do you make of his comment?
Well, first off, I think it's interesting that he was wearing a sweatshirt promoting his wife's podcast.
Screaming.
So, hey.
We love a supportive spouse.
We do.
Yeah.
He also told the media they're all crazy with this shirt on it.
Well, that's a whole nother story. I think LeBron handled this pitch perfect. He diffused it without saying that he didn't believe it. You know, it'd be one thing if he was like, I don't believe this story. This is all ridiculous. And he didn't say, boy, I'm mad about this. He goes, I don't care about it. Which diffused it, but acknowledged it, but didn't say it was wrong. And I would just say that for 20 plus years now, and Danny knows this because he was on LeBron teams, part of dealing with LeBron is dealing with headaches. Sometimes he's going to upset you, but whatever he does to upset you, he makes up for it times 10, times 20, times 50. And that's the case it was like in Cleveland. That's the case it was in Miami. And that's the case it is in LA. Has Jeannie been upset with LeBron at times? Absolutely. Would she give anything back that did the last 8 years? Absolutely not. And so that's the reality. It doesn't mean it's not interesting. The story is very interesting, but it doesn't mean it indicates a fractured relationship.
Said it perfectly, Wendy. I couldn't disagree there at all. I couldn't agree more, honestly. But given that, he said he doesn't care. I think he might have cared just a little bit. But yes, LeBron, he had so many things come his way in the 23 years, even before that. So he knows the media, he knows how to bounce it off. He answered it perfectly. And this is how I expected him to answer it. But I think somewhere in there, he might care just a little bit.
Yeah, you've
Blanks with fill-in Frank. What's first?
When LeBron says he doesn't care about the report that Jeannie Buss had problems with him, he sounds blank.
He sounds dismissive, Frank, and I would say justifiably dismissive. Because look, it seems like a well-reported, interesting yarn. If you're curious about the goings-on, backstage of an NBA team, particularly the one that produces the most gossip. But it's just, It doesn't matter. And so LeBron basically stood there at his locker and answered very, perfunctorily, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I just found myself nodding. And I am a Jeannie Buss fan. So I don't want to have to declare sides here, but I'm a Jeannie Buss fan. But LeBron's right, it doesn't matter. And so he was dismissive. Am I being too cavalier? Am I being too dismissive?
No, I don't think you are. My word is exhausted. And if you go back, about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, his agent, Rich Paul, is on a podcast with Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
And Rich brought up the idea of trading Austin Reeves for Jaren Jackson
He just
Jr.
dumped him. He just threw him off the team.
So guess who had to address it, Mike? LeBron James.
He
has to address something that's on another podcast.
Yeah.
Now he has to address something that Jeannie Buss allegedly said. He must be thinking, listen, folks, I'm 41 years old. I'm still trying to compete with these young guys. My son is on the team. I got another son in college. I got my daughter here as well. Why do I have to answer everything? I think that's why he's a little tired of it. And I kept thinking about this. Whatever Jeannie Buss allegedly or didn't say, I guarantee you something along those lines was said in Cleveland and Miami, and now allegedly it's been said in
Miami
LA.
would have been
and
tougher.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but hang on. Guess what? They won in all those places. So LeBron has done right by the Lakers. They've done right by him. They've helped his brand. They drafted his son. Dismissive, exhausted. I think it all applies. At 41 years old, he doesn't want every day to be the story about him from somebody on the outside. You could tell he's a little tired.
I agree 100% with that. Let me just push back a little bit. In that it was a really cool exchange. LeBron was very engaged. He really is in those post-game exchanges. You and I know we've been there for those. Yeah. And he's like the best person to talk to in those situations. But when LeBron goes to the part where he says, I don't care about podcasts, what? He's got a podcast.
He's got one.
His
That's
agent
right.
has a podcast.
That's
Say
right.
what? So we're not going fully down that road with LeBron, but I don't blame him. There's no need to care.
Does that came out like clearing the air, or is that something?
We never talk. I don't understand. It's not like me and Jeannie be on the phone talking. You guys ain't never heard a report about that. Don't make something out of it that is not. It's always been mutual. It's always been respect. It's always been a great partnership. But it's not like I call Jeannie on the phone. It's not like I call Mickey Harrison on the phone or Dan Gilbert on the phone.
Let's bring in John Gonzalez. And John, this is not like Beckham family level drama, but certainly Lakers drama certainly sells when it comes to the NBA. What did you make of that report? What did you make of LeBron's comments?
Yeah, what I really loved about it is he also added in, hey, I don't care about articles. I don't care about stories. I don't care about podcasts. LeBron, of course, has a podcast. He used to do it with his head coach, JJ Redick, and now he does it with Steve Nash. And his agent, Rich Paul, also has a podcast. We're just like a week removed from Rich Paul trying to trade Austin Reeves for JJ Redick on a podcast. So this is one of those situations where the Lakers are an absolute mess. There's been drama with the Buss family forever, since the patriarch passed away over a decade ago when Jeannie took over control of the operation and really has feuded with her siblings forever. So it doesn't surprise me that Jeannie is reported to have said that LeBron wasn't grateful enough when they went and drafted Bronny, that LeBron, saw himself as the savior. Newsflash for Jeannie, though, he kind of was the savior because the Lakers were pretty bad before he arrived, and they've been just okay since, but they did win that one championship. So without LeBron, I'm not sure that they even get that one. And also, when she issued her denial, it was sort of a non-denial denial where she said that it was sort of a shame that LeBron had to get roped in here. So I think this is probably LeBron's last year. He wanted an extension with the Lakers this offseason. They decided not to give it to him. So I think it's probably his last season with the Lakers. Whether or not he stays in the NBA, we'll find out. But this is hardly surprising. This is sort of how the Lakers have operated for a while now.
So just listening to you, you think you would lean that he stays a Laker, will not be dealt by the deadline, you think?
Yeah, it's going to be awfully difficult for them to move him at the deadline. I mean, should he want to get out? Yeah, I mean, they've lost 6 of their last 9 games. They fall in the 6th place in the Western Conference. They're tied with the Wolves. The Lakers are not a good team beyond Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, who's been injured for a while now. That roster gets real thin real fast, but getting him out is easier said than done, right? I mean, some of the teams that have been mentioned, the Cavs, the salary matching is awfully difficult there. They haven't fallen into a groove. Maybe they'd want to shake things up and bring LeBron home. But again, on paper, that's a much more difficult task. The Warriors maybe finally pairing him with Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler just got hurt, but he makes $52.6 million. So it's going to be difficult. I think more likely the Lakers stand pat and try to clear the decks this offseason and next and build around Luka.
So let me get this straight. The Lakers are sitting here 12 days away from the February 5th trade deadline. They've got 2 generational superstars in LeBron James and Luka Doncic on the roster. They're ranked 23rd in defensive rating and 29th in three-point shooting. And the big plan is to hunt for bargain deals. Oh, and while we're at it, let's keep DeAndre Ayton around, even though he's putting up 6 points and 8 rebounds per game on a $60 million contract with the effort level of someone who just found out his Wi-Fi password changed. Makes perfect sense. Who needs defense when you've got vibes, right? But wait, it gets better. The Lakers apparently want to trade their 2032 first-round pick for multiple lesser picks. Like they're playing some kind of draft pick arbitrage game, as if splitting one decent asset into 3 mediocre ones is going to suddenly unlock the championship formula. And the kicker, they're trying to package Jard Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent together to get a wing, which is the basketball equivalent of trying to trade a broken lawnmower and a VCR for a Tesla. Good luck with that negotiation. Rob, I'm sure NBA general managers are lining up around the block to take on Gabe Vincent's 5.4 points per game and Vanderbilt's offensive limitations in exchange for a legitimate Sturton caliber wing who can actually shoot and defend. Oh, and let's not forget, they only have one truly valuable first-round pick available, either 2031 or 2032. So every decision they make better count, because there's no safety net here. No pressure, though. And here's the part that really makes me want to laugh and cry at the same time. The dream targets are Herb Jones and Trey Murphy from New Orleans. 2 guys who would actually fix the Lakers' problems immediately, but the Pelicans aren't interested in trading them and would demand 2 unprotected first-round picks, if they even picked up the phone. So naturally, the Lakers are going to pivot to Plan B, which apparently involves names like Kean Ellis from Sacramento, Andrew Wiggins from Miami, and, oh yeah, Nikki Claxton from Brooklyn, who's been in Lakers trade rumors for approximately 17 months now without anything actually happening. To this point, hearing I see Claxton linked to the Lakers is like hearing your friends say they're finally going to start that diet on Monday. Sure, buddy. We've heard this one before, but you know what? Before I spiral into complete cynicism about the Lakers front office strategy, and trust me, there's plenty more where that came from. If you're getting entertainment value from watching me break down this absolute circus of a trade deadline situation, go ahead and smash that like button right now. Because honestly, the only thing keeping me sane through this Lakers season is knowing that there are thousands of you out there going through the same emotional role. Screaming at your TV every time DeAndre Ayton jogs back on defense like he's taking a Sunday stroll through Griffith Park. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because the next 12 days are going to be absolute chaos and you're going to want to be here for every second of it when Rob Pelinka either pulls off a miracle or does absolutely nothing and tells us to be patient until the summer. Now let's actually dig into what's happening here, because despite my sarcasm and justified frustration, there are some genuinely interesting names popping up in these trade discussions that could actually move the needle if the Lakers can get creative with their limited assets. And I mean genuinely creative, not the kind of creative where you convince yourself that Gabe Vincent is a valuable trade piece because he was good in Miami 3 years ago. First up, and this is a name that's been circulating longer than a flat earth theory on social media, we've got Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't we hear about this exact same trade possibility last year and the year before that? And probably at some point during the Paleolithic era. Yes, and probably yes. But here's why it's different this time, and I actually mean that. The Nets are in full youth movement mode right now. They've got Day'Ron Sharpe eating into center minutes. They've got a roster full of young pieces they're trying to develop. And Claxton himself just missed multiple games due to personal reasons, which always makes teams reassess what they have. Right now, he's averaging 12.6 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 4.0 assists per game. But more importantly, since the beginning of December, he's averaging 12.6 points, 7.8 boards, 4.4 assists, 4 blocks, and shooting 60% from the field over his last 16 games. The man is an elite rim protector, and that's not hyperbole. That's statistical fact. He's top 20 in blocks per game in the entire NBA, and when he's engaged defensively, he changes everything about what opposing teams can do at the basket. The Nets want a first-round pick for him, which is honestly reasonable given what other teams have paid for centers with less defensive impact. And here's where it gets interesting. There's legitimate smoke about Cam Thomas potentially being included in any deal as a sweetener. Thomas is averaging 17 points per game off the bench, and while his efficiency is questionable and his defense is basically non-existent, he's a bucket getter who could provide instant offense for a second unit. For the Lakers, the appeal of Claxton is blindingly obvious. You immediately solve the rim protection issue that's been killing you all season long. You've got someone who can switch onto smaller guards in pick and roll situations without getting completely torched. You've got a lob threat for Luka to work with. And most importantly, you've got insurance for when DeAndre Ayton decides he doesn't feel like playing basketball that particular evening, which seems to happen roughly every other game. But here's where I start having concerns. And these are legitimate concerns based on asset management and future flexibility. If you're giving up that 2031 first-round pick for Claxton, you've now used your only premium trade asset on a center. That's fine if Claxton is the difference between winning a championship and getting bounced in the second round, but is he really? He's a great role player, don't get me wrong, but he's not solving your perimeter defense problems. He's not solving your three-point shooting problems. He's not addressing the fact that when teams put 5 out and run spread pick and roll against you, you're cooked because you don't have enough wings who can stay in front of their man and recover 2 shooters. So you'd be using your premium pick on a center when your biggest weakness is on the perimeter, which feels like buying a really nice steering wheel when your car doesn't have an engine. And before anyone says you can just find a wing in the buyout market, let me stop you right there. The buyout market is not producing starting caliber 3-and-D wings who can guard multiple positions. It's producing washed veterans looking for one last check and young guys who couldn't crack rotations on bad teams. That's not what championship teams are built on. That being said, and I'm going to contradict myself slightly here because nuance exists, if the Lakers can somehow get Claxton without giving up that premium for, or if they can execute that draft pick arbitrage play where they turn 1/2032, pick into 3 lesser picks and then use one of those for Claxton, then I'm much more interested. Because having Claxton and Ayton as your center rotation, even with Ayton's issues, gives you legitimate size and rim protection that opens up so many more lineup combinations. You could go big against Denver with Jokic, you could switch everything against smaller teams. You'd have a legitimate deterrent at the rim instead of watching LeBron James at age 41 trying to be your help side defender while also being your primary offensive initiator. The fit makes sense if the price is right, but that's a massive if. And Rob Pelinka better not get desperate and overpaid just because he's feeling pressured to do anything before this deadline passes. Now let's talk about the name that genuinely shocked me when it started appearing in these reports. And I mean, legitimately caught me off guard in a way that most trade rumors don't anymore. Payton Watson from the Denver Nuggets. When I first saw his name mentioned alongside Jonathan Kuminga, Keon Ellis, and Andrew Wiggins as potential Lakers targets, I had to do a double take because Watson has not been in serious Lakers trade discussions until extremely recently. And the more I've dug into this, the more I think this might be the single most interesting trade possibility the Lakers have, even more than the Herb Jones pipe dream or the NIC Claxton reunion tour. Here's what makes Payton Watson so fascinating. He's 23 years old, which means he fits the timeline perfectly with a young Lakers core if you're thinking beyond this season. He's from Beverly Hills, California, and played his college ball at UC. So the LA connection is already built in, and he's not going to treat this like some random small market stop on his career journey. Since Nikola Jokic went down with his injury roughly a month ago, Watson has been absolutely exploding, averaging 22 points per game, 6 rebounds, shooting 49, 5% from the field, and 41.5% from three-point range. His overall season numbers are sitting at 14.5 points, 5.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists, and he's shooting 50% from the field with 42% from three. Just 2 days ago, on January 23rd, he dropped a career-high 35 points against Washington, going 10-4, 6-4, 8 from 3, and 9 for 10 from the free throw line. The kid has been in attack mode, and he's shown he can be a legitimate scoring threat when given the opportunity and freedom to operate. But here's what really makes this situation intriguing from a Lakers perspective. The Denver Nuggets have a catastrophic salary situation looming. They're about to have 5 players making over $20 million per season. Jamal Murray is locked in long-term at max money. Aaron Gordon's extension kicks in. They just traded Michael Porter Jr., plus a first-round pick to acquire Cameron Johnson, and you don't make that move unless you're committed to Johnson long. Christian Brown just signed his extension that pays him $20 million per year. Jonas Valanciunas is eating up salary as the backup center. That's 5 guys at $20 million or more, and Payton Watson is a restricted free agent this summer. League executives are estimating that Watson, based on his recent performance and potential, could command around $20 million per season in restricted free agency. Denver absolutely cannot afford to add a 6th player at that price point. It's financially impossible unless they want to pay luxury tax penalties that would make even Steve Ballmer blush. So Denver has a decision to make, and they have to make it soon. Do they let Watson walk in restricted free agency and get nothing in return? Do they try to bring him back and match whatever offer he gets, knowing it destroys their cap flexibility? Or do they trade him now while he has value and use the return to address other holes on their roster? This is where the Lakers can strike, because they have something Denver doesn't have: cap flexibility this summer. The Lakers have Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, all on expiring contracts. That's significant money coming off the book, which means they could theoretically absorb Watson now in a trade and then extend him this summer without completely destroying their financial situation. They'd be buying lowish on a player whose value is skyrocketing, and they'd be getting a young, athletic, two-way wing who can shoot, defend multiple positions, and grow with this team for the next 5 years. And let's talk about fit for a second, because the fit is almost obscenely perfect. Watch is only 6'8" inches with legitimate size and length. He can guard 2s, 3s, and 4s without getting destroyed. He's shooting 42% from 3 on decent volume, which means he spaces the floor for Luka Doncic and LeBron James. He's an elite athlete who can finish above the rim and run in transition. He doesn't need plays called for him, but he's also shown he can create his own shot when necessary. You could slot him into that starting forward spot next to LeBron, and suddenly you've got 2 legitimate wings who can switch everything defensively. Or you could bring him off the bench as an instant energy injection who plays with Jake Laravia and Marcus Smart in hyper-athletic lineups that can pressure the ball and get out in transition. The versatility alone makes Watson an incredibly valuable piece. Now, I'm not naive enough to think Denver is just going to hand him over for spare parts in a second draft. They're going to want something of value in return. But here's the thing. If Denver is truly facing the reality that they cannot afford to pay Watson what he's going to command, and if they're looking at losing him for nothing in restricted free agency because some team is going to offer him a deal they can't match, then trading him now for any return is better than losing him for nothing. The Lakers could potentially put together a package centered around one of their expiring contracts. Dalton Nectar has shown flashes but isn't getting minutes, and maybe a protected first-round pick or multiple second-rounders. Is that enough? Probably not. Would Denver take that deal? Maybe not. But the point is, there's a framework for a deal here that makes sense for both sides if Denver decides they have to move on from Watson before the deadline or risk losing him entirely. And here's my personal take on this, stripped of all the analysis and cap logistics. If I'm Rob Pelinka, Payton Watson is my #1 target at this trade deadline. Not Herb Jones, even though he's better right now. Not Nicey Claxton, even though he'd help immediately. Payton Watson, because Watson represents something the Lakers desperately need, which is youth and upside on the wing that doesn't require you to sacrifice your entire future to acquire. If you can get Watson without giving up that premium 2031 or 2032 first round pick, you've just added a 23-year-old who's entering his prime, who has LA roots, who fits perfectly next to your stars, and who's going to be part of this team's core for the next half decade. That's the kind of move that pays dividends, not just this season, but for years to come. And if Denver is truly backed into a corner financially, which all the reporting suggests they are, then the Lakers should be on the phone constantly trying to make this happen. This is the definition of buying low on a rising player before his value explodes completely. Now let's pivot to a name that's been floating around, and I'll be completely honest, this one doesn't excite me at all. Miles Bridges from the Charlotte Hornets. Multiple teams have shown exploratory interest, including the Bucks, Clippers, Kings, and Lakers. Charlotte appears open to moving him if the price is right, and that price is almost certainly going to include a first-round pick. Bridges is putting up 19 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game. He's got good size at 6'7". He's athletic. He can get you buckets in isolation situations. And he brings some physicality that the Lakers could use when matching up against bigger forwards in the West. On paper, I get why teams are interested, but here's where I start having major problems with Miles Bridges as a Lakers target. And these problems aren't small. First, he's not a good defender. I don't care what his physical tools suggest he should be capable of. The reality is he doesn't impact games defensively in a meaningful way. He's not a lockdown perimeter defender. He's not protecting the rim. He's not generating steals or deflections at a high rate. He's just kind of there defensively, which is fine if you're the Charlotte Hornets and you're trying to win 35 games, but it's not what championship contenders need from a wing. They're trading a first-round pick to acquire. Second, and this is uncomfortable but necessary to address, Bridges has significant personal baggage and locker room history that would make me very nervous about bringing him into a Lakers locker room that already has chemistry questions with the DeAndre Aytons. Third, and this is maybe most important from a basketball perspective, the Hornets are not a winning organization. They've been terrible for years. So how much of Bridges' production is real? And how much of it is empty stats on a bad team where he can jack up shots and do whatever he wants without consequence? If you're the Lakers and you have one tradable first-round pick to work with, using it on Miles Bridges feels like settling. It feels like the move you make when all your better options have dried up and you're desperate to do something before the deadline passes so you can tell fans you tried. But settling on Miles Bridges doesn't fix your defensive issue. It doesn't fix your three-point shooting consistency. It doesn't give you that lockdown wing who can shut down the other team's best perimeter player in a playoff series. What it gives you is another score-first forward who might give you 18 points one night and disappear for 8 the next. All while getting cooked on defense by quicker guards and not providing the kind of winning impact that actually translates to postseason success. And here's the thing that really bothers me about the Miles Bridges fit. The Lakers already have scoring. Luka Doncic is leading the entire NBA in points per game. LeBron James is still giving you 8 points since returning from his injury. Austin Reeves was having a career year before his calf strain. You don't need another guy who's going to demand touches and take shots away from your best players. What you need is someone who can stand in the corner, hit the open three when Luka kicks it out, and then lock down on the other end when the game gets tight. Miles Bridges is not that player. He's never been that player. He's a decent starter on a mediocre team, but he's not the kind of piece that elevates a championship contender. So unless the price drops to maybe 2 second-round picks and an expiring contract, I think Rob Pelinka should look elsewhere because this feels like a move you'd regret by playoff time when Bridges is getting played off the floor against better competition. Let me shift gears to someone who's actually been earning his minutes and proving value every single night. And that's Drew Timm. This is one of the more underrated storylines of the Lakers season because nobody was talking about Timm 2 months ago, and now he's become a legitimate rotation piece that JJ Redick trusts in real game situations. LeBron James came out after the Portland game where Timm dropped 21 points and gave him major praise, saying he's a very smart basketball player with genuine NBA IQ. That's not throwaway. Coach speak. That's LeBron James, who's played with everyone and seen everything, specifically highlighting a two-way contract player's basketball intelligence. That means something. Timm is Gonzaga's all-time leading scorer, so the pedigree is there even if the NBA draft process didn't work out for him initially, Over his last 3 games, he's been playing 11 plus minutes consistently. And in that stretch, he's shown exactly why JJ Redick is leaning on him more and more. What Tim brings to this Lakers offense is something they haven't had since the Mark Gasol championship season. And that's a big man who can be a legitimate hub at the top of the key. He sets intelligent screens both on and off the ball. He knows when to slip to the basket and when to pop out for a jumper. He makes the right reads out of short roll situations, finding cutters and shooters with crisp passes that keep the offense flowing. He's hit a 3-pointer in each of the last 3 Lakers wins. He's shooting 9 for 12 from the field over that stretch. And he's giving Luka Doncic and LeBron James a completely different dynamic to work with in pick and roll action. The Lakers have been running double drag series with Tim as the second screener and is creating clean looks for their shooters because defenses don't know whether to trap the ball handler. Switch onto the screen or drop back and protect the rim. Tim's passing ability forces defenses to make decisions, and when defenses have to think instead of react, good offenses carve them up. He's also shown he can operate in delay actions at the top of the key. A UConn style concept where he receives the ball with his back to the basket and makes reads based on how the defense reacts. This is high level offensive basketball, and it's coming from a guy nobody expected to contribute meaningful minutes this season. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend Tim is some complete player without flaws. The defensive limitations are very real. He doesn't have the lateral quickness to switch onto quicker guards in pick and roll situations. He doesn't have the foot speed to recover when he gets beat off the dribble. He's not protecting the rim at an elite level. These are all legitimate concerns, and they're part of the reason he never stuck in the NBA before. Now, despite his offensive skill set being obvious to anyone who watched him at Gonzaga. But here's what I think is being undervalued. If you're smart with your scheme and positioning, if you surround Tim with long athletic defenders who can help and rotate, if you only play him in specific matchups where his weaknesses won't get exploited, then his offensive value far outweighs his defensive limitations. The Lakers right now have the personnel to hide Tim defensively when necessary. Jake Laravia can switch onto multiple positions. Marcus Smart is still an elite point of VTAC defender. Jared Vanderbilt, when engaged, can guard anyone on the perimeter. So you put Tim out there with the right combination of defenders, you scheme appropriately to keep him away from isolation situations, and you let his offensive intelligence and passing open up your entire offense. That's not rocket science. That's just smart coaching and roster management. And frankly, I believe Tim could be a sneaky weapon in playoff series against teams like Denver or Minnesota where you need different looks to throw at elite rim protector. Having a center who can pop out for threes, find cutters from the elbow, and make quick decisions in short roll situations gives you options at centers like DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes simply cannot provide for a two-way contract guy who nobody was even thinking about 8 weeks ago. Tim has carved out real value, and I think the Lakers would be smart to keep developing him and finding ways to maximize his unique skill set. Now we need to talk about Jake Laravia. And I'm going to be very direct about this because I've been saying it for weeks and nothing has changed my mind. Jake Laravia needs to be a permanent starter for the Los Angeles Lakers. And anyone arguing otherwise is either not watching the games closely or doesn't understand how championship level basketball works. The numbers aren't just good, they're screaming at you to pay attention. When you run lineups with Laravia next to LeBron James and Luka Doncic over the last 10 games, you're looking at a plus 9.9 net rating. The current starting five of Luka, Marcus Smart, LeBron, Laravia. And DeAndre Ayton has a 123 offensive rating, which would be the best offense in basketball, and a 114 defensive rating, which would rank 5th, 10th in the NBA. That's a massive improvement over the Lakers' overall 25th rank. And it shows you exactly what happens when you put the right combination of players together instead of just rolling out your highest paid guys. Laravia is averaging 9.5 points and 2 rebounds on the season, but those overall numbers don't tell the story of what he's been doing recently. Over his last 10 games, he's putting up 13.8 points on 49.5% shooting from the field and 39.6% from three-point range. He's also contributing 1.8 steals per game in that stretch, which is borderline elite for a wing player and shows you he's not just filling up stats, he's making winning plays that disrupt the other team's offense. He's 4th on the team in three-point shooting percentage. He's providing size and versatility defensively with his 6 feet 9 inches wingspan. And most importantly, he's doing all of this without needing plays called for him or demanding touches that take the ball out of Luka and LeBron's hand. But here's what makes Laravia truly special beyond just the statistics. He's from Pasadena, California. His family are lifelong Lakers fans. After games, he's still wearing Lakers gear from head to toe in his media availability. Not because he has to, but because he genuinely takes pride in representing this franchise. That's not performative, that's how. And when you're trying to build a championship culture, when you're trying to create an environment where everyone buys into their role and plays for something bigger than themselves, having guys like Laravia who actually care about wearing the purple and gold matters more than most people realize. JJ Redick calls him one of his banshees, which is coach speak for guys who do all the dirty work that doesn't show up in the box score. Laravia cuts hard without the ball. He crashes the offensive glass. He sets solid screens that free up shooters. He makes the extra pass instead of forcing shots. He rotates on defense. He takes charges. He does all the little things that winning teams need from their role players, and he does them with maximum effort every single night. When you watch him play, you can tell he understands his role is not to be a star, it's to make the stars around him better, and he executes that role at an extremely high level. When Rui Hachimura came back from his calf injury, JJ Redick made the decision to bring Rui off the bench for the first time this season and keep Laravia in the starting lineup. And what happened? The Lakers absolutely destroyed Atlanta in a blowout win with Laravia pouring in 17 points and making winning plays all over the floor. The offense flowed better. The ball movement was crisper. The defense had more versatility. It wasn't even close. And then in the very next game against Memphis, Laravia went out there and dropped 21 points with 9 rebounds against his former team, proving he can scale up his production when needed without disrupting the offensive hierarchy. The fit with the starting unit is perfect because Laravia gives you everything you need from that fifth starter role. He provides size and length defensively so you can switch more actions. He spaces the floor with his three-point shooting so the lane stays open for Luka and LeBron to attack. He makes quick decisions with the basketball so the offense doesn't stagnate. He attacks closeouts hard when defenses run at him, either finishing at the rim or making the next pass to an open shooter. He crashes the glass on both ends, giving you second chance opportunities and limiting opponent possession. And he does all of this with infectious energy that lifts everyone else's effort level. Now let me address the counter argument before someone jumps in the comments saying I'm disrespecting Rui Hachimura. I'm not. Rui's a good player with real skills. He can score in isolation, he can hit mid-range jumpers, he's got size and strength. But here's the reality. The starting lineup with Rui instead of Laravia has a minus 19.9 net rating this season. That's not a typo. Minus 199. That lineup gets destroyed. And it's not hard to understand why. Rui is not a great defender. He's not a willing passer. He doesn't bring the same energy and effort on loose balls in 50 to 50 plays. He's better suited for a bench role where he can come in and get his touches, where plays can be called for him, where he can operate more as a scorer without having to sacrifice his game to fit around LeBron and Luka. So here's what I believe should happen when Austin Reeves returns from his calf injury. The starting five needs to be Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Jake Laravia, and DeAndre Ayton. Rui Hachimura comes off the bench as a sixth man where he can feast on second units, get his scoring opportunities, and provide instant offense when the starters need a breather. That's not a demotion. That's smart roster management. That's putting every player in the best position to succeed based on their skill sets and what the team needs. And anyone arguing that Rui should start over Laravia at this point is ignoring what the numbers and the actual game film is telling you. Laravia has earned that starting spot. He's proven he can handle it, and the team plays objectively better when he's out there with the main guys. It's time to stop debating this and make it permanent. Now let's zoom way out and talk about the broader context of this trade deadline and what the Lakers are actually trying to accomplish here. Because there's a massive disconnect between what fans want, what the front office is willing to do, and what's actually realistic given their asset situation. The trade deadline is now officially 12 days away, February 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and the pressure is mounting for Rob Pelinka to make a move that shows Lakers fans, this front office is serious about competing for a championship with the window they have right now. Here's what we know for certain from multiple reports over the past week. The Lakers are actively trying to package Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent together to acquire a wing. Now, let's be real about what that package actually looks like from another team's perspective. Vanderbilt has averaged 5 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 1.3 assists in 29 games this season while shooting 46.2% from the field, 31.4% from three, and 71% from the free throw line. He brings energy and defensive potential, but his offensive limitations are glaring, and Redick didn't play him for an entire month because he couldn't trust him in real game situations. Gabe Vincent has averaged 5.4 points in 4 assists this season and has been mostly a non-factor on the floor when he does play. He's making $11.5 million on an expiring contract, which could have some value for a team looking to clear cap space. But he's not moving the needle as a basketball player anymore. So when the Lakers say they're trying to package these two guys for a wing, what they're really saying is they're hoping to find a team desperate enough to take on their salary filler in exchange for an actual rotation player. That's a tough sell. The other major development is that the Lakers are actively shopping their 2032 first-round pick, trying to turn one good pick into multiple lesser picks. The model they're following is what Phoenix did last year when they traded their 2031 pick to Utah for 3 picks in 2025, 2027, and 2029. The logic is that having more picks gives you more flexibility to construct different trade packages. So instead of only being able to include one first rounder in a deal, you'd suddenly have 2 or 3 to work with on paper. That makes sense. In reality, it's an admission that your one premium asset isn't enough to land the player you actually want. So you're hoping that splitting it into smaller pieces somehow adds up to more value. It's financial engineering applied to basketball trades. And I'm skeptical it's going to work the way Pelinka hopes it will. The dream targets, as everyone knows by now, remain Herb Jones and Trey Murphy from the New Orleans Pelicans. Herb Jones is the quintessential 3-and-D wing who would transform the Lakers defense overnight. He's averaging 11.1 points, 3.7 rebounds, 2.6 assists with elite defense, and 38% three-point shooting. He's under contract through 2028 at reasonable money. He's exactly what this team needs. The problem? New Orleans is still resistant to trading him and would demand 2 unprotected first-round picks if they even entertained offers. The Lakers don't have 2 unprotected first-rounders to give. They barely have 1. So unless the Pelicans completely crater and decide to rebuild, which doesn't seem imminent, Herb Jones is not walking through that door. It's a nice dream, but it's time to wake up and look at realistic options. Trey Murphy 3 is the other Pelicans wing who'd be perfect for the Lakers. He's averaging 16.8 points and 4.2 rebounds while shooting 40.2% from 3. He's 24 years old, so he fits the timeline. He's signed through 2029 at $23 million per year, which is very manageable for a player of his caliber. The problem? The Pelicans reportedly want 3 first-round picks from Murphy. 3. The Lakers have 1 tradable first-rounder total. So again, unless Pelinka can somehow convince New Orleans to take Dalton 2 second-rounders and a bag of basketballs for Murphy, that trade isn't happening either. It's time to stop fantasizing about Pelicans wings and focus on what's actually attainable. The more realistic targets, based on all the reporting from credible league insiders, include Keon Ellis from Sacramento, Andrew Wiggins from Miami, Jonathan Kuminga from Golden State, and potentially Inisi Claxton from Brooklyn if they go the center route instead. Let's break down each of these quickly. Keon Ellis is averaging just 3.8 points per game in limited minutes for the Kings, but he's a career 5% three-point shooter, and he brings exactly the kind of athletic perimeter defense the Lakers need. The Kings are heading toward a rebuild after firing Mike Brown, and Ellis hasn't been able to crack the rotation consistently under either Brown or new coach Doug Christie. He's available, he'd be cheap to acquire, and a straight-up swap of Ellis for Dalton Knecht works under the cap. Maybe you throw in a second-round pick if Sacramento insists. This is the definition of a bargain deal, and Ellis has legitimate upside if given consistent minutes and a defined role. He fits what the Lakers need perfectly. He wouldn't cost significant asset, and he's young enough that you're not just renting him for half a season. If I'm ranking realistic targets, Ellis is near the top of my list because the cost matches the return and you're addressing a real need. Andrew Wiggins from Miami is a much bigger swing, but the fit is obvious. He's averaging 15.8 points, 4.9 rebounds, 2.8 assists while shooting 46.8% from the field and 40.2% from 3. He's also averaging 1.2 steals and 1.1 blocks, showing he's making defensive plays and not just standing around on that end. The Heat are stuck in the middle at 21-20, an 8th seed in the East, and they might be willing to move Wiggins if the price is right. The problem, his contract is $28, $2 million this season, which means you'd have to match significant salary going back to Miami. That probably means multiple expiring contracts. Maybe Rui Hachimura gets included, and you'd likely have to attach a first-round pick or multiple seconds to make Miami actually consider it. Wiggins would help immediately, there's no question, but you're sacrificing a lot of flexibility to get him, and you'd be betting that his shooting and defense translate to championship-level basketball and high-leverage playoff game. I'm not convinced Wiggins is that guy, even though I understand why the Lakers are interested. Jonathan Kuminga officially requested a trade from Golden State on January 15th, and the Lakers were immediately mentioned as a potential suitor. Kuminga is 22 years old, super athletic, and has shown flashes of being a legitimate two-way player. He's averaging 15.1 points and 5.3 rebounds, and the Warriors drafted him with the 7th overall pick in 2021, believing he'd be a core piece. But he's fallen out of the rotation under Steve Kerr. There are concerns about his selfishness and effort, and Golden State is clearly ready to move on. The Lakers could probably get him without giving up their premium for maybe a package centered around necked and expiring contracts with some second-round picks attached. The upside is there, but so is the risk that Kuminga never figures it out, and you've traded decent assets for a guy who can't stay on the floor in meaningful games. Personally, I'd be nervous about Kuminga because the Warriors have one of the best player development systems in basketball, and if they've given up on him, what does that tell you? And then there's the NIC Claxton situation that I already covered extensively, but I'll add this. If the Lakers decide to go the center route with Claxton instead of prioritizing a wing, they better have a damn good plan for how they're going to address the perimeter defense problem. Because adding rim protection doesn't matter if opposing teams are just going 2-5 out and hunt your guards and pick and roll all game long. Centers matter, but in the modern NBA, wings matter more. And if you use your only premium pick on Claxton, you've essentially punted on upgrading the perimeter for this season. Here's my bottom line assessment of where the Lakers stand with 12 days to go. They're 26-16, sitting 5th in the Western Conference, which sounds decent until you realize they've lost 8 of their last 13 games, and all 11 of their losses this season have come by double digits. That's a team that's good enough to beat bad teams and lose convincingly to good teams. That's not championship basketball. They're ranked 23rd in defensive rating, 29th in three-point shooting percentage, and they need multiple upgrades to be legitimate title contender. But they don't have the assets to make multiple upgrades. They have one decent pick, a bunch of salary filler, and the hope that they can get creative with packaging. Rob Pelinka is being conservative because he wants to preserve cap flexibility for the summer of 2026 when Rui, Vincent, Kleber, and potentially others come off the books. That's defensible if you think the real championship window is next year or the year after when the Lakers can be major players in free agency. But it's also risky because you have LeBron James at 41 years old and Luka Doncic in his prime right now, and there's no guarantee either one is still here in 2 years. LeBron could retire or leave. Luka could get frustrated and demand out if the Lakers waste his prime years. The window is open now, even if it's not as wide as everyone hoped, and there's an argument for being aggressive and maximizing this opportunity rather than betting on a theoretical future. If I'm making the decisions, here's what I do. I target Payton Watson from Denver as my #1 priority because he represents the best combination of current impact and long-term value. If Denver won't engage on Watson at a reasonable price, I pivot to Keon Ellis from Sacramento as the bargain play that still addresses real need. I also make one more call to Brooklyn about Nick Claxton, but only if the price drops significantly from a premium. And I absolutely do not mortgage the future for guys like Miles Bridges or Andrew Wiggins unless I'm certain they're the difference between winning a championship and getting bounced in the second round. The smart move is finding value in places other teams aren't looking, adding young players who can grow at the core, and not panicking into a win-now move that costs you flexibility for years to come. But that's just me, and I'm not Rob Pelinka. With 12 days left, anything can happen. Pelinka has pulled off surprising moves before. He got Luka Doncic in a trade nobody saw coming. He's connected around the league and knows how to work the phones. So maybe he surprises us again. Or maybe February 5th comes and goes, and the Lakers stand pat, telling fans to be patient for the summer. Either way, the next 2 weeks are going to tell us everything we need to know about what this front office truly believes about their championship chances this season